All right, hi class. We're gonna start with ACT prep. We're gonna do problems 7 through 12. Sub, if you wouldn't mind, will you pull up a 6-minute timer on Google? Just type in 6-minute timer and push pause, give people about 20-30 seconds to pull stuff out. And then if you wouldn't mind starting that, they're gonna be doing problems 7 through 12. When it ends, you can unpause this video, come back here, and I will go through the answers with them. Okay. So we've got 7 is E as in echo. 8 is H as in hotel. 9 is A as in alpha. 10 is K as in kilo. 11 is C as in Charlie. And 12 is K as in kilo. So get those down. I'll go through those with you. All right. So number 7 says, the first term is 1 in the geometric sequence 1, -3, 9, -27. So there's 2 ways you could do this. Honestly, the numbers are going up by -3. It might just be easier just to kind of multiply, so times -3, times -3, times -3, times -3, times -3, times -3, and that would get you the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh term. I actually think that might be the quickest way to just do it because it's only asking for the 7th term. If not, there is a formula. It's a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1. And so you plug in the first term, you plug in how much they're multiplying by, what term you're trying to find, and you can multiply that out to also get 729. So either way works. I think this is the most common sense way, but if you know the formula, if it asks for a really big term, let's say it asks for the 50th term, this way would have been so much easier to find it, okay? Number 8 says the shipping rate for, let me turn it so you can see it better. The shipping rate for customers of ShipQuick consists of a fee per box and a price per pound for each box. The table below gives the fee and the price per pound for customers shipping boxes of various weights. Greg wants ShipQuick to ship 1 box that weighs 15 pounds. What is the shipping rate for this box? So he wants one that's 15 pounds. That means we're in that category. So there's a one-time fee of $10. And then it says price per pound is 65 cents. So times 15 pounds and you get $9.75. So if I add those together, that's going to be the total cost to ship the box. So 8 would be 19.75. So the one-time fee plus the price per pound. For number 9, it says a computer chip 0.32 centimeters thick is made up of layers of silicone. If the top and bottom layers are each 0.03 centimeters thick and the inner layers are each 0.02 centimeters thick, how many inner layers are there? So it's looking at this tiny little side. If I magnified it out, the whole length it says is 0.32 centimeters. And it says the top length is 0.03, not length, thickness. And the bottom thickness is 0.03. So I just subtracted that to start off. I said, okay, let's subtract the top layer, subtract the bottom layer. I'm dealing with 0.26 centimeters that make up all the middle layers. So to figure out how many there are, I took that quantity, 0.26, and divided by how thick each middle layer is. And when I divided that out, I got 13. So I went with A. So there's 13 middle layers in addition to the top layer and the bottom layer. Okay. For 10, it says the table below shows the number of cars Jing sold each month last year. what is the median of the data in the table? So remember yesterday there was a problem about mean. Mean is average. Add them all together, divide by how many there are. Median is the middle value, or the average of the two middle numbers. So I don't know, you guys are all driving now. Median, when you're driving on the freeway, is that divider right in the center. You don't want to run into the median, you don't want to hit the median. So it's literally like a blockade in the middle. So if you want to think of it that way, it's the number in the middle, just like on the freeway, you don't want to hit the middle, okay? So I just went through and I crossed out the smallest one, biggest one. Oh, sorry, I totally messed that up. Start over. There's 13. So the smallest one, biggest one, next smallest one, next biggest, and I just kept going back and forth. And I just crossed off the smallest, biggest, smallest, biggest until I got to the two middle numbers. And you'll notice neither of those are the option. And in addition, when you find the two middle, if there's two center numbers, you have to take their average. And I ended up with 23.5 as my answer. Okay. So find the middle. If there's two in the middle, you have to take the average of them. For number 11, it says, students studying motion observed a cart rolling at a constant rate along a straight line. The table below gives the distance d feet. The cart was from a reference point at 1 second intervals from time t equals 0 to t equals 5. So if you'll notice, before it's moved at all, it's already 14 feet away. Then it's increasing at a constant rate of 6 feet per second. Okay. So the one-time value of 14 just happens once, but the 6 feet, that increases by, the distance increases by 6 feet for every second. So that's why it's 6 times t plus 14. And the last one, the length of the rectangle with area 54 is 9. So I drew a rectangle, said, okay, if the area is 54 and the length is 9, that means the width has to be 6, because that's what's going to multiply to give me 54. Now it wants to know what the perimeter is. So that means this is 6 and this is 9. So if I added the perimeter together, that would be 12 plus 18, and I would end up with 30 as my answer. Okay. All right, go ahead and put that away. Pull out your 6.1 notes and 6.1 homework. We're going to go through a little bit in both of those. And then again, so I'm going to go through part of 6.1 today, and then we will finish 6.1 on Tuesday in class. Remember, Monday's a holiday, so you don't have school. So we'll work on it Friday and finish it up Tuesday. Okay. So just a quick refresher. We are talking about trig functions, sine, cosine, tangent, as well as cosecant, secant, and cotangent. And also feel free to pause this at any time. I would like to make sure they get through the whole video with about 10 to 15 minutes left at the end to work, maybe even 20 minutes if possible. But if I'm going too fast, you're more than welcome to pause it for a second and give them a chance to get caught up. But this is review. We did this yesterday. So I apologize if you were in my 6th period class. I gave you all 3 sides like this, and I shouldn't have done that in the example. If you're given just 2 side lengths, and this is what a lot of the homework problems are like, you have to use Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to find the 3rd side. So we did that in 7th period. You would do 5 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. We got 25 plus 64 equals c squared. 89 equals c squared. And that's how I should have had you find their 3rd side for 6th period, okay? Then we did all the ratios, and remember that if there's a square root in the denominator, it's just not considered simplified. So that's why we multiplied the top and bottom by that square root of 89 to get a simplified fraction. And then when you're flipping them over here, so cosecant is the inverse of sine, go back to the original, flip this upside down to get that answer. Flip 8 over 80 square root of 89 upside down to get that answer. This one, there wasn't a simplified version, so just flip it upside down, okay? So just keep that in mind. So that's what we would do. If you get 2 sides, you do Pythagorean theorem, find the 3rd one, and then write out all your trig identities. We're going to do that as well on the homework. There's some more problems like that. So just for a quick reference on the homework, You were supposed to do the first page 1 through 4, but the ones that are similar to the one I just kind of reviewed are 5, 6, and 7, and 8. So for example, if I'm looking at 5 in the homework, so flip over if you don't have it out, and I draw this angle. If it gives me cosine, so remember, go back to SOHCAHTOA. Cosine is the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. So that makes this the adjacent side and this the hypotenuse. So I always find the opposite side first. I think that's easier, which means this has to be the adjacent side and this has to be the hypotenuse. Okay, oops, I drew H. That's not helpful. This has to be the hypotenuse, okay? So if I want to find the third side, I'm going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared to figure out what the missing side is, okay? So I will do 5, I'm going to do it up here, 5 squared plus b squared equals 8 squared, and you will solve for b. That will give you your missing side, and then you can do SOHCAHTOA, okay? So again, sine would be opposite over whatever you get there, hypotenuse. Cosine would be adjacent over hypotenuse, which that one was already given to us. You could fill that in without even doing any work. And you also know that this one's just a reciprocal of that. So you can fill those in without even drawing the triangle first. And then your tangent would be whatever you get for the opposite side over the adjacent side, okay? So do those ones. So here's your triangle. You know the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. You need to find the opposite side. This one is cosecant, which I don't work in terms of cosecant, secant, cotangent. So I would write it down. Cosecant 10 over 7, which tells me that the sine is 7 over 10. I know how to work with that. Okay. So I would say, okay, if the sine is 7 over 10, let me draw that triangle out. Then that means it's going to be the opposite over the hypotenuse. So opposite side is 7 and the hypotenuse is 10. And then again, you would use a squared plus b squared equals c squared to find the missing side so you can solve the rest of them. And then the last one on that, well, 2 more. For 7, it gave you the cotangent. Again, I don't work with cotangent, secant, or cosecant, so I would go back and say, well, that means the tangent's 11 over 6, and then draw my triangle. So I'd say, okay, if I know that the tangent's 11 over 6, that's opposite over adjacent. So that makes this the opposite side and this the adjacent side. Oh my gosh, I keep writing the letter instead of the number. There you go. And again, you use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Find the hypotenuse, your missing side. If you're finding the hypotenuse, it's always c. If you're not finding the hypotenuse, it can be either a or b. It doesn't matter which one. And you'll find the rest of them. Same thing with 8. It says you've got a right triangle. You have the cosine is 4/9. So cosine, if I'm going with SOHCAHTOA, is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent, again, I always find the opposite. I think that's easier, which means this side has to be my adjacent and this side has to be the hypotenuse. Okay, so the adjacent side is equal to 4. And the hypotenuse is equal to 9. Okay, so I want you to find the missing side and then identify what the tangent would be. So that would be opposite over adjacent. Okay, so those are all similar to what you already learned. I'll give you a second, I'll flip back over and we'll finish the rest of what I want you to know from the notes. Okay, so let's go back to the notes. Okay. We already went through this. This was if the angle was 35, 10, A, B, and C. I'm just going to write in what we ended up getting. We'll go over that again more on Tuesday, but I want to focus on what's below this for today. But here's what we got. I'm trying to remember what the tangent, 7/10. Okay, so that was from Thursday. Okay, so I want to focus on these special triangles. So with special triangles, if you know that a triangle is a 45, 45, 90, you can use that to solve for the sides without having to do all those trig identities we did before. So you would know that this is a ratio of A, and A squared roots of 2. And then this one, if it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle, you would automatically know that this side is A, this equals A square roots of 3, and this would equal 2A. So I'm going to give you an easy example for each, and then I'm going to give you a harder example for each. Okay, so the easier example would be if I just give you the A is 3, well then you automatically know this one's 3. And you, first of all, if I tell you it's a 45, 45, 90, then you know it's 3 and 3, this one would have to be 3 square roots of 2, okay? If I told you for a 30, 60, 90, this side was 5, well, you would know this was 5 square roots of 3, and you know this was 2 times 5, which would just be 10. So you could quickly come up with what the values were just by knowing what A was. Now, sometimes you're not given A. Sometimes you're given one of the other sides that's a little more complicated, and you're going to have to find A. So that's what we're going to do. So if I tell you, instead of giving you A, I give you that this side equals square root of 19, I'm going to have to solve for A. So what I mean by that is square root of 19 is equal to A square roots of 2. I'm literally going to set them equal to each other to figure out what A equals. So I'd say A square roots of 2 is equal to square root of 19. And I'm going to solve for A. What would you think I would do to solve for A? So I'm going to divide both sides by square root of 2. And then I can't have a square root on the bottom because it's just not simplified. I multiply the top by square root of 2 and the bottom by square root of 2. So that's going to give me, when I have a square root and a square root, they combine on the inside. So it's square root of 38 because it's 19 times 2. And square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just going to be 2. Okay, that's literally what A is going to equal. So that's going to be, this side is square root of 3 over 2, 38 over 2, and this side is also square root of 38 over 2. Okay, I'll give you a second. Sorry. Okay, this one over here, I'm going to give you this side. This is equal to 8, and this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So if you look up here, I gave you this side. A square roots of 3 is equal to 8, which I don't know what 8 is. I'm going to do A square roots of 3 is equal to 8, and I'm going to solve for A. I'll divide both sides by square root of 3. I'll get A equals 8 over square root of 3. But again, I'm still not simplified. I've got to multiply the top by square root of 3 and the bottom by square root of 3 to get A equals 8 square roots of 3 over 3. So that means this side is 8 square roots of 3 over 3. And then this side over here, let me show you. This is twice that because I just found A. So let me go back. So A was 8 square roots of 3 over 3, which means that this side is going to be twice that. It's going to be twice whatever A was. So you just think about 8 square roots of 3 over 3. If I double that, it's just going to be 16 square roots of 3 over 3. Okay. All right, I'm going to show you what I want you to work on these in the homework, and then you will have the rest of the class period to work on 6.1 homework. Okay, so your responsibility for today is to do numbers 5 through 13. That's what you're working on today. So write that down somewhere. You're supposed to complete problems 5 through 13 in the homework. So 5 through 8 were like what we were doing on Thursday. And then 9 through 13 are the new ones. So I'll write it up here as well, 5 through 13. Okay. 9 says, describe and correct the error in finding cosecant, given that theta is an acute angle of a right triangle and cosine of theta equals 7 over 11. So I want you to look on the other page. Cosine of theta is 7 over 11. What is the inverse of cosine? So if I flip that upside down to make it 11 over 7, what actually is that equal to? So if you look, cosine, its reciprocal is secant. It's not cosecant. And that's what the problem is implying. That's what it's wanting you to correct. So cosecant is not the inverse of cosine. Secant is. So you would say over here that secant is equal to 11 over 7. And explain, just briefly, just say cosecant is not the inverse of cosine. Secant is. So it's just identifying the wrong inverse. Okay. So you're going to be doing 11 through 13. For example, I gave you on this problem A. And so you just have to do, for 10, you would do, okay, if A is 8, then this is going to be 8 times square root of 3. And this is going to be 2 times 8. So that's the simple one. 11, 12, and 13 aren't as simple. On 11, I gave you this side. Let's see what that's equivalent to. So square root of 21, it's a 45, 45, 90. So over on your, on your notes, let's look at the 45, 45, 90. I gave you this side. So I gave you a square root of 2. So you would say this is equal to a square root of 2, and I want you to solve for a. Okay. For 12, I gave you the side that's across from the 60-degree angle. So if you look on the notes again, the side across from the 60-degree angle is a square root of 3. So 12 is equal to a square root of 3, and you're going to have to find what a is and then what 2a is. And lastly, it says in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the longer leg has a length of 5. What is the length of the shorter leg? So if I've got a 30, 60, 90 triangle, it says the longer leg is 5. The longer leg is going to go across from the 60 instead of the 30 because it's a bigger angle. It wants to know the shorter leg. Okay, so again, I'm looking for the one that goes across from the 30, but what I'm given is the one that's across from the 60. So that's just like this one right here, but just to show you, the one across from the 60 is equal to a square root of 3. So you would say, okay, well 5 is equal to a square root of 3. Well, maybe I should write it down here. 5 is equal to a square root of 3, and you're solving for a. This side actually equals a. So if you solve for a, that will be your answer. Okay, so I want you to finish through 13 today. Again, we will do 8 CT prep again on Tuesday, finish the rest of 6.1. We will start 6.2 on Wednesday. I hope you all have a wonderful 3-day weekend, and I will see you next week.